You have a drawer full of useless things. You know exactly which drawer I'm talking about. There is a broken charging cable in there, 3 dead AA batteries, a random key that unlocks absolutely nothing you own. And sitting right next to it, there is an object you haven't touched in 5 years. Maybe it's a faded concert ticket. Maybe it's a completely dried out pen. Maybe it's a smooth rock you found on a beach trip when you were 12. You know you should throw it away. It takes up space. It serves zero practical purpose. If someone offered you $10 for it from a purely economic standpoint, you should take the money. But you don't, because somehow this stupid little object means something. Now, imagine doing the exact same thing 100,000 years ago, except your treasured object isn't an old iPhone case. It's a piece of bone, or a shell, or a completely useless rock, and somehow you still can't let it go. Why do humans become emotionally attached to objects? Why can a completely useless item suddenly feel impossible to throw away? And more importantly, when did we start doing this? To answer that, we have to travel back to the prehistoric world. Let's meet a guy who is about to experience the absolute dawn of sentimental value. Let's call him Otis. Otis is sitting in the dirt outside a cave. The tribe is busy. The hunters are sharpening spears. The gatherers are sorting roots. Everyone is contributing to survival. Otis is holding a rock. It is a perfectly smooth, slightly transparent piece of quartz. It doesn't kill anything. It doesn't cook anything. It doesn't keep Otis warm. This object has zero practical value, and Otis has been staring at it for an hour. Another hunter walks by. He looks at Otis. He looks at the rock. He kicks a little dirt on Otis's foot and motions for him to help skin a dead animal. Otis quickly shoves the rock into a pouch made of animal hide. He doesn't want anyone taking it. He doesn't want anyone looking at it. Otis has discovered something revolutionary. Not fire, not language, not agriculture. He has discovered mine. He has essentially invented emotional hoarding. But why? Why does this specific rock matter? If we look at the archaeological record, Otis's behavior isn't just a funny story. It's actually a massive turning point in human evolution. For millions of years, our ancient ancestors made objects, but those objects were entirely functional. A hand axe was a hand axe. A scraper was a scraper. If a hand axe broke, you didn't cry over it. You threw it away and made a new one. Objects were tools. But then something strange happened. Archaeologists studying prehistoric sites in Africa and Europe began finding objects that made absolutely no sense from a survival perspective. They found pierced animal teeth. They found seashells with tiny holes drilled through them, completely covered in red pigment. They found ostrich eggshells carved into beads. Think about the effort required to make this. Otis sits down and spends 4 agonizing hours drilling a hole through a tough piece of bone using nothing but a sharp piece of flint. 4 hours. For something that cannot be eaten, it cannot be used as a weapon, it cannot even open a coconut. So why is he doing this? Because Otis isn't just making a tool anymore, he is making a symbol. When Otis strings that carved bone around his neck, he is taking an abstract thought from inside his brain and forcing it into a physical object. Researchers believe that early personal ornaments like beads and necklaces were the very first forms of data storage. First, an object can mean something to a group. A carved shell can say where you belong. A specific necklace can signal your status. Red pigment can mark your identity. When Otis walks into a new camp wearing a necklace made of eagle talons, he doesn't have to explain who he is. The object isn't just bone anymore, it is carrying information. But once objects could carry meaning, a psychological door was kicked wide open. Because if an object can carry information, it can also carry a memory. Then something much more powerful happens. The object becomes connected to a person. A friend gives you a shell. Someone you love wears a specific necklace. Which brings us back to Otis and that smooth quartz rock. Otis didn't just find that rock on the ground. He found it on a hunting trip with his best friend. They had survived a terrifying encounter with a predator. They sat by a river afterward, heart rates slowly returning to normal. His friend picked up the rock, turned it over in the sunlight, and handed it to Otis. Now, Years later, his friend is gone. He died in a harsh winter. Otis still holds the rock. If another member of the tribe tries to take it, Otis will fight them for it. Bro really kept the rock. But from a psychological standpoint, Otis isn't protecting a piece of quartz. He is protecting a memory. The human brain doesn't just store memories in a neat, organized filing cabinet. Memories are often deeply tied to physical, sensory things. A smell, a sound, a physical texture. When Otis touches the smooth surface of the rock, it can bring the memory of that riverbank back with surprising emotional force. The rock isn't just a rock anymore. It has become an external anchor for his memory. And this isn't just speculation. We see this exact evolutionary leap mirrored in some of the most profound archaeological discoveries in history. When researchers excavate prehistoric burials, they don't just find bodies, they find grave goods. They find hunters buried with heavily decorated spears. They find bodies surrounded by carefully chosen animal bones. They find children buried with thousands of meticulously carved ivory beads. Why? Because by the time we started burying our dead, objects had fully absorbed human emotion. When a tribe buried a child with thousands of beads, they weren't just throwing away valuable items. They were giving up thousands of hours of grueling labor. It was a physical manifestation of grief. It was the tribe saying, "This person was so important to us that we are willing to permanently part with our most valuable, meaningful objects." The object survives the person. It becomes a way to communicate love across the absolute boundary of death. Your emotional support water bottle would be completely incomprehensible to Otis, although he'd probably still name it. Because Otis, just like you, cannot separate his emotions from the physical world. We use objects as anchors. Think about that drawer full of useless things again. Why is the faded concert ticket still there? Because if you throw it away, it feels like you are throwing away the night you spent with your friends. Why is the smooth beach rock still on your shelf? Because if you lose it, it feels like you are losing the 12-year-old version of yourself who found it. We are terrified of forgetting. We are terrified of losing the people we love, the moments that defined us, and the identities we have built. So we outsource our memories to physical things. We pour our emotions into wood, plastic, metal, and stone, hoping that if the object survives, a piece of us will survive with it. Otis never understood psychology. He didn't know what an external memory anchor was. He didn't know what sentimental attachment was. He just knew that when somebody tried to take that smooth, completely useless piece of quartz away from him, he wanted it back. You probably have something exactly like that too. A completely useless object that you'd never pay much money for. And yet, you'd hate to lose it. Because somewhere along the way, it stopped being an object. It became a memory, a person, a place, a version of you. Maybe that's why humans started giving objects meaning, not because the objects were special, but because humans are. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. Take care and see you in the next one.